What's up, activators? Welcome back to the show. It's your host, Caitlin, and I am super excited to introduce you to this week's guest, Dr. Mariah Rohm. Before we get there, a little update on me, my life, all the fun things. I finally got my Pilates certification all squared away. So I'll be teaching my first real fun classes this week, and I am so excited. What a better way to start off with a bang than by doing something new and something fresh. So I'm super pumped about that. This past weekend, Matt and I had the most beautiful breathwork experience with my teacher, Zach. And then the following day, I got to host one for a group of folks here in the Valley, and I just had the most fun. It's always so cool to kind of take a break from things that you haven't done in a long time, or ceremony that you haven't hosted, and step back into the space and just totally get into it. And every session is different, but I felt like this group was particularly magical and connected in some way, shape, or form that even looking back, I still can't explain. So I'm super excited to keep those on the horizon in the next month. And it's just a friendly reminder that you can do as many things or as few things as you want to. I feel like I've really been putting a lot of pressure on myself and pushing myself to pick a lane and stay in it. And as someone who, I have so many exploratory placements in my chart. I'm a generator. All the information that you could gather about me says that I might get bored a little bit easily. And I love the idea of newness, of freshness, of getting my hands dirty in all the cool ways possible. So I'm hoping to host more in-person sessions soon, and I hope to see you there if you're local to the Valley. I'm also super excited this week because we started our gut protocol, which is written and inspired by another previous guest on this podcast, Real Health with Rach. A couple of months ago, just was like, oh my God, I have to do all the testing possible to really figure out my hormone health. And originally, I was just going to do the Dutch test, which is basically just a urine test, and it gives you some insights into the levels of hormones in your body. But as Rachel and I were talking, she's like, I also have the option to work with you on the GI map test. And basically, you go number 2 in a little basket and put it in a vial and mail it off to this gorgeous little lab. And they tell you all the things that are going on with all the little people in your gut. And at first I was like, I'll wait to do that. And then a couple of months later, after we had first talked about it and kind of started to get the ball rolling, I just got this intuitive hit oh my gosh, I need to do that. And let me tell you, I am so grateful that I did, because I am learning so much about my body and the things that, I've never thought are quote unquote problems, but have definitely been things that, I've struggled with. For example, the differences in how I feel after I eat certain foods. I don't chalk it up to the food that I'm eating. I just chalk it up to however I'm feeling that day. And that's definitely changing now that I'm working with Rachel a little bit closer. Similarly, my skin, I'm like, I want to use all natural things. I want to make sure that, I'm treating my biggest vessel in my body with the most love and attention that I possibly can. And I definitely wasn't doing that either by the foods that I was putting in my body. So quick breakdown of basically my results of this beautiful GI map. I have a little bit of overgrowth of H. pylori and C. diff. So 2 major bacterias in our bellies that are really just blocking my digestion from doing what it's supposed to. And overall, there's a few probiotic compounds in my gut that are just not growing the way that they should. All the good bacteria that's supposed to be in there and reproducing itself has not a fighting chance to do that right now, based on the nutrition choices that I've been making, and also just the fact that my gut immune system is absolutely fried. She's like, do you get sick often? I'm like, no, but I'm so inflamed. I also learned that I have a mild intolerance to gluten, which I had no idea about. And so for the next 90 days or so, I'm going on a pretty strict regimen to make sure that I can clear out all that shit, literally, and figuratively, and make room for more productive, more helpful bacteria that, our guts just so naturally need. And it's so crazy because, on this whole hormone journey, I've really been like, oh my God, my mental health is crazy and all up and down and all over the place. And my hormones are crazy too. And it's simply because of the birth control or the fact that I quit my corporate job and now I'm here. But it's wild to think that there are some biological needs that are going on in my body that simply I just haven't given the attention or been able to serve because I didn't have any information to love up on them. So for the next 90 days, I'm going gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, and red meat-free, supplementing with a few different things that Rachel supported me in selecting, like a toothpaste to help my oral microbiome get just a little bit better and more healthy. I'm taking metabolic support and things that are going to help the food in my stomach digest and move along the digestive tract just a little bit more smoothly. I am also drinking a hell of a ton of water. And granted, while here in Arizona, I usually try to my very, very best, especially teaching so many heated formats. I'm really, really focusing this time on making sure that my body is retaining the water that it needs to operate not only at the microbiology level, but also at the broader level too. So I'll share more about this journey as we go week over week. I will tell you it's day 3. And while there's been plenty of temptation, I know that I'm able to reintroduce some of these foods that I'm cutting out right now, or at least try to in the future. And so I'm trying not to let that be a huge mental barrier. It's actually been a really exciting journey because Matt's joining me on some of this too, because, my gut probably matches him in a way because we swap saliva, we share food, we drink from the same cups as each other, things like that. So it's been fun to have a partner in accountability, a partner in crime. And I think he's really excited to just learn more about his body too. And while today was especially hard because it's like, oh my gosh, I see fortune cookies on the counter after a meal of Asian food, or even just going to a birthday party yesterday where there's a cupcake, a little sweet treat, or, cutting out coffee and things that are a little bit more acidic. I know that in the end, this journey is going to be all worth it, and I'll have learned so much more about my body. And so, one, shout out to Real Health with Rach. If you're thinking about getting any sort of coaching or nutritional information, for your own personal health, I highly, highly recommend her services and just her as a human being. In some of the modules that, I've been working through with her health revival program, it is so, so crazy how much I didn't know and how easy she makes it to understand. So I am so, so grateful for her, and knowing that I can just email or sometimes even text her all my crazy ass questions. It really feels like someone's in my corner to watch me be successful in this and really, really cares about my longevity and health. And all of this is really put into perspective just how much weight the statement health is wealth holds. I wouldn't say even now that I'm unhealthy. I wouldn't consider myself that, but I'm excited to be able to level up where I already am. And, Matt and I had this conversation the other day of just how grateful we are to be able to access the food, the nutrients, the resources that we need, especially right now in this season, when a lot of people don't have that. And so just a friendly reminder always to find that attitude of gratitude, whether it's with food, whether it's your home, your car, the air you breathe, all of that beautiful stuff. I think it's really easy to sometimes forget that, those things can be taken away from us, or might be harder to access for some. So have that attitude of gratitude and appreciation. And yeah, I'll keep you updated on this fun little gut protocol that we're following. We also, this Saturday, finally made a decision on what we're doing for the future of our move. And in October, we'll currently be leaving our current place and moving back in with family for about 6 months or so. And while we were like, oh my gosh, this might be really, really hard. Like, we haven't lived with our families since a long time. I think we're really excited to get that family time in before we go and travel and sow our wild oats. So within 2 months, we have to sell literally everything in this house. I won't be getting rid of some things. He won't be getting rid of some things, but there's definitely a lot of stuff that we are opening the door up to so someone else can love up on it. And I will tell you, I had a full mental breakdown on Saturday night, just thinking about, the feeling of attachment that we have to our things, to our stuff. And, for me, I love to be at home. I love to be cozy. I love to be, comfortable and like in my element, in my space, because I'm the one who curated and created it. And I know that idea is going to follow me, follow us wherever we adventure to. But it's this feeling of like release of the consumerism of, oh my God, like what am I going to do with my walking pad at my desk? Well, I'm not going to use it for months, let alone maybe even years. So why shove it in a storage unit if somebody else can start a journey of walking every day while they're working, or, have a resource for somebody to walk inside when it's really, really hot here in the summer and continue their fitness journey or their movement journey. And so just trying to pass so much love with all of these things and know that even more, and even the things that I need when I need them are coming my way. And yeah, it's okay to let go of, the objects that have been with me for so many seasons and so many years. I think I'm coming around. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be hard, but it's all part of it. And I'm really excited. I think the fear is becoming a little bit more of the like, oh my gosh, universe, like what's going to come up? What are we going to see? How incredible is this journey going to be for us? So off we go. Here we go. I am so excited. And I think a lot more people are like asking us about it now, and we actually have something to say. So I'll keep y'all updated on where we plan on landing first. And as always, if you have any recommendations or suggestions on this little travel journey of ours, please feel free to reach out and let us know. Okay, that is enough updates from me. Let me introduce you to this week's guest, Dr. Mariah Rohm. This episode, you guys, is pure medicine. I texted her today and was like, there is alchemy in the words that you shared. And I am just so excited for you to meet her. I met her like really randomly and serendipitously at a wellness event in Tucson where I was tabling and sharing a little bit more about this podcast, this show, about yoga and like movement and just what I do. And she and I got to chatting and talking. And at the time I was having a lot of wrist pain, and she is a holistic chiropractor and came over. And so as we were talking, I shared with her, and she was like, hey, like, let's talk about this. Like, let's get into what is in there. Do you mind if I play around with your physical body and all that stuff? And we just hit it off right away. So Dr. Mariah currently serves mommas and babies as a perinatal and pediatric chiropractor. What a cool mouthful to say of words. And she helps them reconnect with their innate intelligence so that they feel safe in their bodies, both when before baby is earthside as well as afterwards. It's so cool to see her light up and see her talk about how just working with families really has shaped her as a person. And in this episode, we'll talk a lot about how her own physical, emotional, spiritual journey has shaped the way that she shows up for families by weaving, work with your nervous system and just embodying this level of care that honestly we don't always see in the wellness field. And, I have yet still to go down to the Source in Tucson. It is one of the coolest places, whether I'm checking them out online or hearing about them word of mouth. You can just tell that this is a group of healing humans, healing souls that are really ready to step in and shift the paradigm and the culture of what not only chiropractic care is, but what it means to actually care for yourself and to raise a family or, be you in the most conscious and explorative way possible. And you will see so quickly that Dr. Mariah embodies that and represents both herself and the Source so beautifully. She is a wise soul with just such a calming presence. We talk in this in this episode about all the information that goes on in our body, and how it can tell the story. And she loves just working with people every single day and takes away a lot of learnings herself. I love that she just has this deep trust in the birth process. I think a lot of women, and we'll talk about this too, a lot of women are really scared, not only because becoming a mom or becoming a parent and building a family is one of the most honorable and humbling yet kind of scary things that some people get to go through in this life. And Mariah just talks about it in a way that feels like there's so much depth to it. There's so much worth behind even the hardest seasons, right? We have to be grateful for it all. We get to be grateful for it all. And during this episode, Mariah will tell you a little bit about, her journey of having a family full of sisters with really challenging births to, her own dream of becoming a chiropractor, giving it up for a minute and being like, this isn't what I'm supposed to do, and feeling really lost, really isolated, and living out of alignment, no pun intended, to moving to a space where she has this calm and just stoic confidence that shines through in the way she speaks about her work, that you can tell she's just clearly living her mission and doing what she absolutely loves. In this episode, I want to call something out because I think you'll hear it. Dr. Mariah uses the word potential quite a bit. And I love the way she talks about it, because when I hear the word potential, or, at least in the past of my life, whenever I hear that word, it's this something to live up to. It's this pressure to kind of okay, I have this potential. Let me go and be great for everybody else. But the way she talks about this feeling of potential is instead this sense of hope, or this feeling of openness of, oh my gosh, there is always potential. There is always energy living through me that I can either channel and work with, or I can let rest. And I have to trust the timing of that and everything of that nature. So I hope you notice that and hear just how she takes that pressure and so much weight and burden off this feeling of we could be so many things as humans. And instead it makes it with this tone. She makes it with this tone of, oh my gosh, we can be so many things as humans. What do I get to wake up and do and be today? Whether it be as a daughter or son, a father or mother, a part of a family, or just on your own. It's truly beautiful. For our listeners, Dr. Mariah has a beautiful holistic pregnancy ebook called Seed to Sovereign, and it is a guide from preconception all the way through postpartum. It's packed with a bunch of tools, even some rituals for you to do with yourself, and resources to help you create this conscious journey into motherhood rather than one that is quite fear-based. So from fertility all the way to birth prep and all the way to postpartum, she has this ebook and is ready to love up on you and nourish you in this one-stop shop. So if you are like, let me enter this portal and learn more, you can always reach out to her for that ebook and get more information that way too. I'll add it in the show notes as well, just so you can get in contact with her too. In this episode, we talk a lot about the nervous system and how much time that we spend in fight or flight, plus some little ways that we can come back to our body and get into that more natural rest and digest state. We also talk about why pain and bliss cannot coexist, but they're both beautiful and they're both seasons that we get to live through, these contractive seasons and these expansive ones too, and how, we got to be grateful for it all. She also talks a little bit about how chiropractic is a co-creative practice. It's not something you show up to necessarily one time, but it's a session between two people or your family and, let's say, someone like Dr. Mariah, who is there to help you transform and create a trajectory that helps you understand your healing potential from the inside out. She even says in this episode, our goal is to see you less and less and less until we don't see you anymore, because the power of your body to heal itself. We're just helping you to get that momentum and energy moving. And in this episode, we also talk about just how much of an honor it is to work with babies and mamas and see the shifts in, tapping into this notion of surrender and intuition versus, like I said before, this feeling of fear that, honestly comes with being a mother, being a parent, giving birth for the first time or the fifth time, and all the little moments and aspects of, being human in between. And so I'm so excited for you to meet Dr. Mariah. And without further ado, here she is. Okay. Hi, Mariah. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Happy to be here.
So excited to have you. How have you been?
I've been good, just living the dream and growing every day.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, I love to start the show with a question that I ask all my guests and the inspiration of the name of this podcast, which is, are you spiritually active?
Of course.
Of
The only
course.
way.
Amen. What does spiritually active mean to you?
To me, especially just in the title of being active, being spiritually active is work. It's a journey, it's a process, and it's something that we're born with, but also, life happens and it just constantly is this evolution of growing closer to something higher than yourself. And it's a journey and it's an effort. And
Mm.
at the end of the day, we're all so divinely guided if we choose to be. And so I just think I couldn't imagine choosing anything else.
Oh, I love that you said that it's a choice, because I totally, I agree with that 100%,
Hmm.
that we
Hmm.
could ignore a lot of the things that, we experience, we feel, but like you said, this is the only way.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, right. Speaking of, in your own spiritual practices, in your own journey, what are some of the ways, the modalities in which you connect with you, your highest self?
So initially, I had found God through, or whatever you want to call something higher than yourself. For me, I just choose to call it God, Spirit, Creator,
Beautiful.
um, and through a Bible study. And it was the only time in my life where I felt like I had hope and had
Mm,
saw just the potential for more joy, more life, more happiness, and more connection to who I was and what my purpose was. And then through my own journey, I'd fallen away and gotten closer, and it's just come in waves. And I think that that's so important to know, because even for people out there that are in those darker times, just to know that there are brighter days, and then there's just this ebb and flow that
mm,
happens. But for me specifically now, through chiropractic was one of the main ways I was able to really start to connect to something higher than myself, which is so interesting because mostly people go to the chiropractor for neck pain, back pain, and they think that's all that it really has to offer. Um, but for me, it really allowed me to start to connect to these deeper layers of myself and to know that really everything is just an energy and we have this divine guidance within inside of us as well. But through breath work, meditation, ceremonies, I really just make sure that I set aside that time because I notice when I'm not. And it, even in my practice, my daily practice, it's like I can feel when I'm not as connected as I could be. And I get more in this thinking space rather than just this flow of the guidance of something guiding me rather than doing something to someone. And so it's extremely important.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So when we connected for the first time, it was so serendipitous. We just randomly met at this wellness event in Tucson. And you kind of shared your story with me. So I know a little bit about you, but the big question is tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you're at now.
So out of high school, I thought I wanted to be a chiropractor, and I'll try to keep this short because, of course, every little piece of the journey is important, right? But I thought I wanted to be a chiropractor, so I went to undergrad in Wisconsin. And in school, I just felt like I was extremely disconnected from myself, and I kind of had this realization that there was just more for me. But it wasn't to continue on with school at that moment. I just kind
Mm,
of I lost sense of self. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I was extremely like disconnected from my physical body, just upset with my appearance and all this stuff. And then I left school and I went to x-ray school because I just wanted to start making money. I was like, if I can start making money, feeling a little more stable, I feel like I will feel a little better at that time. That's just what I was led to do.
sure.
And so I went to CT scan or I went to x-ray school and I started doing CAT scans and x-rays, and that was through COVID. Well, through COVID, I bought a house. I was extremely alone, disconnected from my family, working in the hospitals where they're trying to scare you and tell you that, you're not supposed to see your family or anything else. Just keep showing up to work and following these crazy rules that they had made for us, that were changing every day because it was just such a time of being unsure. Like no one knew what was actually happening. And through that, I just started to get really disconnected from what my purpose was. Like, I thought I was having a good time doing all these challenging x rays and making it super fun. But at the same time, I only saw people getting more sick. They would come for one x ray and then they would come for five, and then it was 10, and they were getting CT
Wow.
scans. And so it was just this evolution of dis-ease instead of more ease. And so I was just confused and I was like, this can't be it for me. And I started to have a lot of pain in my body and just really not well mentally, emotionally. And I started seeing a chiropractor and we really resonated. And we would just have these deep conversations about what life was and just those deeper layers that like you don't find very often in conversation in the world. It's a lot of superficial
Right.
stuff like how are you today? And it's just like everyone just says good when that's just not true most of the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? You would have been a great chiropractor. And I was like, well, that was always my dream. And he's, well, why aren't you following your dream? And I was like, I don't know. And like, what? I don't know. And so he's like, you're going to go to chiropractic school and you're going to go to Life University in Marietta, Georgia. And I was like, okay, I agree. Like, this is not for me. It's not serving me. I don't feel connected to my highest self. And I saw the potential of what I could be in the future. And so I decided to move across the country, move to Georgia, go to chiropractic school. And I had met this group of chiropractors that were training as hard as they could, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just deepening in who they were and what their purpose was and their why. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, why isn't every chiropractor doing this? This is arguably the most important thing you could do is heal yourself before you ever laid hands on someone else.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just started following along with those ways of just deepening into myself and what I have to offer and why I'm doing it in the first place and how I want to show up. and just starting to set intentions. And really, intention is just prayer, a prayer for your day, a prayer for what's to come for that person's experience or your own experience. And I just started to see the benefits of that in every aspect. And, there, like I was talking about earlier, there's ebbs and flows of the hard stuff because once you start to do the work, it's not
Yep.
easy. Otherwise, everyone would do it. It's like, oh man, this is really just a huge mirror of all the work that I had to do. But in that, I started to find more and more and more of myself. And so that really was kind of my journey. And at the end of school, Dr. Brett Jones, he was kind of the leader of that group. It's called Kairos Training Culture, and he created when he was in chiropractic school. And he had called me up and he was like, "So, what about coming to Tucson?" And I was like, I couldn't imagine anything else. So moved out here, and then it's just been one thing after another, continuing the growth, and that's what it always will be. And so I'm just grateful to be here, especially just being guided to spaces like this to show up for more people that are on their spiritual journey and just inspire them to keep going because it's just, yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, even when it gets hard, it's like that's where the real growth happens. That's so cheesy, like get outside of your comfort zone, right? And
Exactly.
I was even reflecting on this morning, just my body's going through a lot right now. I'm like, what is happening? I'm trying to diagnose myself. I'm getting really in my head about things and I'm like, okay, let's just like sit, let's journal it out. Let's feel into it and notice, acknowledge, be aware of. And then you create the space for like the magic to happen,
Yeah. A lot of
Healing is
people
holistic.
Exactly. A lot of people are trying to figure out what is wrong with them instead of just taking time in the space to feel what they need to feel. And that's one of
Yes.
the biggest things and that I think people don't have access to is just more time. But the thing is, it's not that they don't have access to it, it's just that they're not prioritizing themselves. And so once you do start to prioritize yourself, you'll notice the ripple effect of that. And that's kind of why I'm so passionate about taking care of moms, because what more important figure to take care of than a mother of a family? Creating life, creating more humans for the world, and just really starting to help her take time for herself to continue to evolve and figure out who she is because that's what's going to inspire her children to figure out
Oh,
who they are. Just having a mom that knows what her purpose is, taking time for herself, because that's essentially what's happened all these years, just parents not taking time for themselves, then kids don't know how to take time for themselves, and then just this ripple effect of that generational trauma essentially.
totally. As they say, monkey see, monkey do, right? Like
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
really been reflecting on that myself lately of how can you show up for others? Just like you said, if you can't show up and create that space for you to move or
Mhm.
heal or do whatever it is that's important to you.
Yeah. And
I
you
love that
have to
you,
feel it to heal it. And if you're not willing to go in and do the work and feel those hard feelings, it's going to stay and it's going to
yes,
linger and it's going to transfer onto the next generation. So if anything, allow that to inspire you to do it for the future generations. And I think that has kind of been the turning point for a lot of people. Like, I
yes.
don't want my kids to go through this same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said this without saying it, but what's really cool to see you work in pediatric and perinatal care is like switching it from that very masculine energy that we live in day to day, right? Like that go, go,
Hmm.
go. We don't have time to stop, to reflect, to think, to feel. It's
Hmm.
just let's continue to build on the momentum that we already have.
Yeah.
And I feel like you help people generally, just through your work. And then, of course, with a focus on family, is like moving back into that feminine energy, that
Hmm.
intuitive side, that creative side, that side that life just flows and we ebb with it, as
Hmm.
you mentioned, which I think is just so magical and so needed right now.
So needed. And I think one of the biggest things in the world right now is most people are stuck in fight or flight. And so there's two phases
Yes.
of the nervous system. There's fight or flight, which is the sympathetic, and then there's rest, digest, heal mode, the parasympathetic. And 80% of the world is stuck in that fight or flight phase. and they're resting, digesting, healing 20% of their day, if that. And arguably, I think it's worse
Agreed.
than those statistics. And in reality, the body is supposed to be in parasympathetic 80% of your day.
Wow.
And so if you just think about how often you're stopping to pause and breathe and reconnect with yourself and your family, it's not 80% of our day.
Right.
And so if you're trying to think of all these things that are like, what's wrong with me? What's causing all this? It's like we have to slow down and listen, like you were saying. Because our body doesn't heal in fight or flight. So when you're trying to heal something, especially, you have to be in that
Mm.
lower vibrational energy, more of that feminine space to listen, to receive. Because if you're constantly running around trying to do more, you
Yes.
actually are creating more chaos, more fight or flight, more energy in the body where we can't heal there. Like physically, we cannot heal in fight or flight.
Yeah. And I think,
Hmm.
we all, most of us, especially those of us that are on these journeys doing the work, as we like to say, we have that awareness. We know that we can't
Hmm.
come to ourselves or back to ourselves or remember or like find that sense of grounding when we're
Hmm.
there. And yet we still operate in that space, which I think is just
Hmm.
so interesting. And at least for me in my personal journey, that's been like the biggest shift that I've noticed is like when I do take time to understand, like in my mind, but also in my body, that rest is productive, that slowing
Hmm.
down is productive,
Hmm.
then like the downloads come, the space is created, like new things happen.
Hmm.
And so I think that's cool to see that you like bear witness to that,
Hmm.
each and every day just by working and connecting with people and giving them the space to do just that.
Yeah, Dr. Brett always says, even if you just lay your hands on a person,
Mm,
give them hope and tune them more into that loving vibration, that slower frequency, that parasympathetic,
yes.
showing them what that feels like. That's really all people need,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like we can go do all these things, but if you just laid your hands on them and showed them what parasympathetic was and what love frequency feels like, that could be enough.
What does
And
that feel
so,
like for you?
oh, it's challenging, because these people come to you and they feel like you're the healer. And so the
Yep.
switch happens when you start to help them understand that innate intelligence that lies within their body, that their body was designed to heal itself. Because that
Mm,
was one of the things I think you wanted to talk about today too, was just the medical paradigm and
yeah.
how they have it so backwards. It's like we don't need anything in addition. We need to tune back into what we already are and what tools our body already has. But it needs the time, it needs the space, it needs that lower vibration.
Mm,
Um, and it's just like the medical society, they're always just looking for something outside of ourselves. And
yes.
instead of tuning into, what we already have access to. And when that starts to happen, people really start to get it and they start to realize that they need more time and that kind of thing. But when they're coming to us in that fight or flight, it's hard to get them to understand that it's not me doing something to them rather than us doing it together, and that they're their own facilitator of healing. We're just holding the space, really.
Yeah. I love that. My breathwork teacher always says like resistance comes up in the funniest of ways. And
Hmm.
oftentimes the first way is that you don't show up.
Yeah.
They have an appointment with you and they don't come, or it could be a variety of other things too, but it's
Hmm.
yeah, it's like, okay, I made it here. I am technically healing myself just by doing that,
Yep.
which is so incredible. And then I'm sure you provide them with so many beautiful and like unique to them tools,
Hmm.
um,
And
to
it's kind of
continue that
built.
work.
Exactly. It's built into how we program our care plans, you could call it, or our wellness plans. First phase of care is really about mobility, getting the body moving in a better
Mm,
way, and more so momentum. So getting them in that healing trajectory, really showing them and reminding their body this remembering of where they come from and what they're capable of. And
mm,
then phase two, they start coming less. because we should start have this empowering that they're doing more for themselves. They're showing
So
up for
cool.
themselves more. They're creating more strength and sustainability in their healing journey. And then that translates directly into their life. And then phase three is their adaptability phase, where they start coming even less than what they were before. So really the goal is to get you out of the office, not to keep you there, and really to empower them and inspire them of what's actually possible. Go out, experience life, try something new that you haven't done in a long time. Come back will help your body adapt to that level of stress, essentially, because it's a new challenge, a new
Yeah.
um, thing to conquer in your life, and then will help your body adapt to it. And that's really where the magic starts to happen, is when your body is able to adapt to anything that your life throws your way. And that's all happens through the nervous system.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. I'm
Yeah.
curious, I'm sure you probably use these words in some way, shape, or form of the body
Mhm.
keeps the score, right? Like
Mhm.
experiences, traumas that we've had both physically as well as emotionally, mentally, right? Those can get stuck. Is
Mhm.
there a particular place or space in the physical body that you see a lot of people either come in for and they don't realize it's energetic, or as you learn more about them, you're like, hey, like there's something else going on here. Like, what's that discovery like for you?
I love this question. It's hard because usually we feel it and know it right away.
Yeah,
And maybe it's not right away, but it comes through the continual ways that they show up in the practice that we really are able to start to tune into those deeper layers. And
yeah,
people that have done, really deep work may know it right away. But over time, and we're all learning and growing in our facilitation, but the reality is it shows up different for every single person.
totally.
And arguably, like 90 to 95% of what people are experiencing is mental and emotional, and it's choosing to store certain places in their body. And so when they have pain in a certain area, sometimes I'll, just the subtleties that we were talking about earlier, just placing a hand there, and then there's just this tonality that can happen of matching that frequency. So maybe it's a slight squeeze of the hand or a softening or a lifting to allow them to dive deeper into what that might actually be and why it was there in the first place. A lot of times people will have big energetic releases just by a hand and a touch and a acknowledgement of what that could be on a deeper level. And yeah, I mean, it's what I really want to inspire people to do is start to create their own map, somatic map of their body. Dr. Kate Jones
Yes.
talks about this really deeply, and because it is going to show up differently for everyone. And so if you can start to create this map of, okay, maybe this pain that I consistently get in my left shoulder, I feel like whenever I'm really stressed at work, that's when that usually shows up. And then maybe, around this certain phase of your life where you're going through big transitions, you'll start to get more migraines, like the occiput will start to lock down. Or maybe in a place in your life when you're really financially unstable, like your low back will start to speak to you, just because that's the main stabilizer of our core and who we are and how we show up. And so it is different for everyone, and that's kind of explaining just a little bit of what I generally feel
Yeah.
in my body. But just to have people, start to create their own map is super, super empowering, because then once it starts to show up in their body, they can stop, pause, explore it a little deeper, and then ultimately figure out, what does it need? You know,
Yes.
if you can figure out what your needs are, you're set. But a lot of
Yes.
times that's where a facilitator will come in the healing journey to help them discover what they actually need. And really, we are just nature at the end of the day. And so it's like, get into nature, get your feet on the ground, water yourself, like just like a plant would. When a plant's not doing well, what does it need? And we are just the same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A friend of mine, she always shares with me. She does tons of, I mean, her healing practice has evolved and changed, but she started with body work and has moved into like biomagnetism and some of the other really cool things that are out there right now. And one day I was having a really hard time grounding, and she just sat with me and she's like, okay, I want you to close your eyes and just like speak to your body. If you
Mhm.
have discomfort or pain somewhere, just ask it, what does it need? And it
Mm-hmm.
might be like, I need a heating pad and some water.
Mm-hmm.
Or it might be like, I need some deep forgiveness. Like, I need you to sit
Mm-hmm.
here with me and like hold the space for this to move. And I've
Mm-hmm.
tried to incorporate that a little bit into like my own daily routines. And just like when I'm having a tough time or having a great day, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like I feel this bursting in my heart. What does it
Mm-hmm.
need from me right now? What does it want? And
Mm-hmm.
that's just like such a fun and cool way. Like your body does talk. You just said it. It speaks to you.
And that's the
And
only way that it really knows how to speak is
yes,
through pain, through symptoms, through
yes.
different things that's showing up. Your body can't use words. And so pain is its way of, pain is actually an acronym. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but pay
Mm.
attention inside now,
No,
for
that's
pain.
amazing. I
Yeah.
have the
And
shivers.
so, right? And so if you can start to tune in to exactly what it needs in that moment and just start to listen on those deeper layers, I mean, what's possible for you to not
Oh,
have, because you can't experience pain and bliss at the same time. But if you can start to pay attention to what it's actually trying to tell you,
mm.
um, everything is possible, I feel like.
We are so wise. That is so cool.
I love it.
Oh, I want to go back to the idea of families, moms, kiddos.
Okay.
I think a lot of us listening are probably familiar with the term pediatric, but perinatal is something new to me. You shared a little
Okay.
bit why, like you work
Hmm.
with moms, kiddos, families. Can you share with us like the importance of that, even on a deeper level?
Hmm.
I always think of birth as a very exciting, new, can be liberating experience. And it can
Hmm.
also be really painful, really difficult, really challenging for a lot of women.
Yeah.
And then you see kids who like they're brand new to life, right? But some
Hmm.
of some of that stuff that resides in the mother's body also more than likely gets passed down to them too.
Hmm.
Maybe it doesn't. So I'm just curious, like what is practicing with them like? What does pediatric perinatal mean? That was the longest question I've ever asked on this
That's
podcast,
okay.
by the
If I
way.
forget some parts of it, just get
No,
me back on track.
totally.
But so I have four sisters, and I think I was given four sisters that all had
Mm.
very traumatic birth experiences for a reason, whether it was a 50-hour labor or,
Whoa.
yeah, one of my sisters, she wanted to do it natural and she was dedicated and she did it, but that's a long time to be in labor.
Hmm.
I've never seen her look so ill in my life. It was
Yeah.
hard to witness, but I'm glad I got to see her in that space. And um, again, one of my sisters had fallen down the stairs right before she had given birth and then had to birth with the broken tailbone. And just like one of my sisters had an emergency C-section and her baby wasn't breathing. And so it's just like all of these deep rooted fear patterns that were built around birth. And most of them were like, that was it, never again.
Hmm.
They just did not want to go through that experience again, understandably. Um, but I've seen it in practice where these women just have these amazing, beautiful, spiritual, life transformational birth experiences that really like birth is not easy in any way, shape, or form, and it's not supposed to be. But if you allow it to teach you the things, teach you these
Mm.
lessons, you get to carry that on into motherhood. It's hard for a reason because motherhood arguably is harder than the actual birth itself.
Yeah.
And so it's really preparing you for that journey of motherhood to step into this new version of yourself. And one of the biggest things in practice I see is these moms that just they want their body back. They want their life back. They want to be their pre-birth self, right? And it's like
Mm.
you are not supposed to be the same after that experience. And whatever lessons that you got from it were for you, and whatever happened, whether it was a C-section that wasn't supposed to be a C-section or whatever it was, like you get to learn
Oh.
these lessons of deep forgiveness and letting go of the shame or guilt that potentially happened during that experience or the fear that you had around it. And um, I don't know, it's just so inspiring every day getting to hold space for moms. And so perinatal means around pregnancy, so like
Mm.
before or after, and then pediatric obviously means kids. But why I was so inspired to take care of women bearing children is really it's just about life's beginnings. So if we can start to inspire that mom to dive into her intuitive forces before she actually undergoes the birth experience, she's a lot more empowered, she's a lot more confident, she
Mm,
just feels stronger in who she is as a woman. And if you can tap more into that, women were made to do birth. We
yeah.
were, but somewhere along the way we forgot that we were made to do it, you know? And there's been so many stories of fear and trauma and just like horror in the birth field and in hospitals. And it's like, how did we get so far away from it? And there's a long storyline there of how that came to be, but we have like a close to 40% C-section rate right now, just,
Wow.
you know, and it's like increasing every day because of that fear-based mindset that women are just scared. For one, you know, they aren't told that their bodies are capable of doing this in many medical settings. And so that's why I like inspiring them, just reminding them constantly as they get adjusted and as they tune into those deeper layers that they're so, so, so capable and powerful and
Mm,
spiritual women. Like that's why God made us women, you know? And really why I want to work with mothers is to help their nervous system become more regulated because mother's nervous system creates babies. And so if women have more of those higher fight or flight nervous systems, their fight or flight is muscle tension, right? It's like a
mm-hmm.
lot of people hold stress in their body, all their muscles are super tight, they're in pain really frequently. And if you're stuck in that phase, birth is a release. It's a letting go. It's a
Mm,
surrender, you know? And so it's hard to surrender when you're in fear. And so
yeah.
it's like, how can we tap more into love and trust and hope and faith instead of that fear based model? And really then giving that information to the baby rather than, you know,
Mm,
that of fear and scarcity. And so
that's,
as I do that, and as I connect with women, you know, I'm hoping that the baby will start to carry on those same patterns, right? And
yeah.
then hopefully through the birth experience, they'll have a much more liberating experience instead of this trauma, you know, that they have to heal from. And
Yeah.
of course, there's always healing to do in every way, shape, and form. But I just think that it's such a powerful way to, you know, inspire life's beginning and where we all came from. Because I'm pretty sure I was a 10-pound baby and I did some damage on my mother's womb. And just like coming out, I know there's stuff that probably in my body is from that birth experience, all the compression that happens on that little baby's neck, or pulling, or it's extracting,
Mm,
or just like not having the gut microbiome if they were a C-section birth. There's so many ways that I can just dive deeper there. But
wow.
yeah, it's it's just I think it really is the key into creating a better society where people are more loving, more trusting, more ability to surrender to life's challenges, you know?
Yeah. What you're sharing has me reflecting so much on like how beautiful and how far we've come as far as, let's say, technology goes. When I say
Mm-hmm.
technology, I mean medicine, just wellness and health and understanding the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have so many people in my life who are, trying to have children or just had a baby, et cetera, et cetera. And each story is different, new,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not talked about still a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think about people who still, live out in the middle of nowhere, right? In a smaller village, right? And they're still
Mm-hmm.
giving birth to people underneath a tree and not in these like I'll say high intensity or high technology settings.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you shared, it's kind of like you said this without saying it, but I think it's a balance between having those tools available to us and also really understanding the emotional and to your point, layers of the inside that are going
Mm-hmm.
on because
Mm-hmm.
without that, the technology doesn't really mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's pre-birth, post-birth, like I'm just thinking about all the babies, all the people that have come before us that we didn't have what's available to us now, that they turned out okay, and they helped
Mm-hmm.
us get to this point. So I guess I don't know what I'm getting at, but it's such a beautiful thing to see us continue to expand in that sense, but
Mm-hmm.
also like sometimes I feel like that can get in our way. The systemization, if you will, has
Mm-hmm.
distracted from the very natural piece of becoming a mother.
Exactly, exactly. And really, I don't even like to say it like this, but a lot of times women are starting to think that pregnancy is like a disorder or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's like happening to them instead of more so this like empowering opportunity
Yeah, they're a
to
part
grow
of it.
into that. Yes, grow into that best version of yourself. And
Yeah.
I am so grateful for all of the medical tools and things that we have to one, a lot of women don't feel safe at home or by themselves or to go do that more holistic natural birth experience, whether it would be water birth or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
A lot of women don't feel safe in that space. So, whatever makes them feel really safe is what they should choose, you know?
Agreed.
And like, I've seen so many women have beautiful natural births in a hospital, and I've also seen many women save like their lives be saved by medical interventions and
Yeah.
the baby. And so it's like neither one is right, but you have to start to choose what's right for you and what's going to be most honoring for you and your nervous system and your baby's nervous system.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
I know anytime I share like when I enter this chapter of my life, when kids start to become a priority and I'm ready to be a mother,
Hmm.
like I know that'll all happen divinely when it's meant to, and you know I'm taking the pressure off myself there. But I always think about I would love to have an at home birth or a water birth or something supernatural. And I
Hmm.
have a lot of friends that have had that same mindset and then go into it and be like, give me that epidural, like I need it right now. You know, so i
Exactly.
think i
Yeah.
think there's so many expectations that we can have too, especially if it's like your first baby.
Hmm.
And those can totally go a very different way, but
Yeah.
like you mentioned too, divinely guided and supported
Hmm.
in ways that we can't see or even imagine.
Hmm. And really, I just love allowing women to tap deeper into their intuition because I think that's arguably one of the most important things that we could be practicing as women. You know, even if it's as simple as driving home and taking a left or a right, you know, when you could go either way, it's just starting to practice those tools and tapping deeper into that because this fear-based model has really started to help make us rely on different things to tell us the answers instead of just trusting that innate ability within inside of us, especially as women, to make those decisions, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
Have you, as you've gone through your own like practice of becoming a practitioner, what
Hmm.
changes have you seen in yourself? You
Oh
know,
my
as
gosh.
I'm learning to hold space for people, it is like every time you do it, whether it's a yoga class that I've taught a million times or a breathwork group, that like the energy is brand new because it's the perfect
Hmm.
combination of those people that showed up. And
Hmm.
every single time it's like, ooh, something shifted in me. I got
Hmm.
transformed too. So what does
Hmm.
that feel like? What has your journey felt like?
It's more of, for me in practice, you know, these people are sitting down in front of you, basically just on their knees, like, please help me, you know? And a lot of times it's like, you know, like we talked about earlier, getting them to see what it is inside of them that they need to listen a little bit deeper to and inspiring them in that way. But life is going to give you exactly what you need, even on the other end of things. And so if there's consistent patterns that keep showing up in your work or certain type of person that keeps laying down on your table, it's like, what is this person here to teach me? It's this
Mm,
beautiful dynamic thing that happens. And I've been there in an initial patient exam with a woman, sitting in front of me crying about her past of like eating disorder or something like that, something that I've personally gone through that's like, and it can be triggering, but it's
Oh.
like I'm here and I'm holding space as someone that's gone through it too, and still listening to those deeper layers of what is this still teaching me and how can this be a more like symbiotic
Mm.
relationship here. And I did a little talk when I first moved to Tucson about, just being here as a new doctor in the space. And I brought up something along the lines of, you're teaching me just as much as I'm teaching you when we're on the table, and just learning those deeper layers of what's possible. And everything really is just energy. And when my body's in fight or flight or parasympathetic, and how I can start to notice that stuff in other people is really just, it's just this beautiful mirror that happens.
Mm.
And it's like we're all on our journey. And one of my biggest, I don't want to say pet peeves, but when someone's like, oh, they're further along on their spiritual journey than you are, or something like that, or even just inspiring people, if you see someone that you feel like is further along than you, to just know that everyone is on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not up to us to decide who's further along or who's not as far along and who still has work to do, because we all have work to do. And I've every single person that you encounter, whether it's even going more spiritual, like a bird or a tree or a person that you walk by on the street or the homeless, like they all have something to offer us.
Yeah.
And when you can start to live in that frequency, life is just about lessons and moving forward in a good way, in the best way that we know possible, and trying to consistently choose something different than what we have been choosing in the past, and just to
Mm.
continue moving in a good trajectory.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I think it's a constant coming back to like one, gratitude for where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
but a
Totally.
reminder too that like there is no goalpost. Further along is just a concept or a thought we made up in our heads, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not real.
Yeah.
Nothing's real
Yeah.
if you think about
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah. Everyone's just learning from everyone. And it's, if you think about it in that way, it's really inspiring.
Yeah, beautiful. Um, Can you share some ways that you're guiding families to like return back to these natural rhythms? Of course, there's so much quote unquote support that you offer when a person's right in front of you or on the
Mm-hmm.
table.
Mm-hmm.
But what else are you sharing with families that's like, hey, like maybe you incorporate this or pull back a little from this? What does that look and sound like?
So, if I can get them in the office on my table, like you said, that is my preferred way to really show
Hmm.
them what's possible for themselves and for their families. So, generally, I'll start with mom, and then mom's like, okay, I get it. I'm bringing my kids. And then, usually, last is the husband, you
Yeah.
know? But if we can get the whole family healing together and moving in that higher vibrational state, like that really, I feel like, is where we see the biggest impact,
Hmm.
on them just learning to reconnect with their body and what's possible. But arguably one of the best ones is breath work. And so a lot of times people are like, what, breathing's weird. And if I can just get them to take a deep breath, like
Hmm.
big inhale, and then just even just like an audible exhale, there's so much to be said about just reconnecting to your breath. And so even with kids, like even as little as 2 and 3, you can get them to take a breath. And
Yep.
literally, I just want to inspire kids to like start to tune into that. The breath is one of their biggest, um, not catalysts, but tools
Yeah.
in what they have access to start better being able to regulate their nervous system and connect back to their self. Like it's in the Bible, God gave us, He breathed life into us, and without
Hmm.
breath, we have no life. And so, if we can just continually connect back to that, and I know you've done breath work and all of the
Yeah.
things, but
Yeah.
there is nothing more powerful than a breath work experience.
I agree.
Just tapping into those different brainwave states and moving into even like gamma and experiencing life outside of yourself, or even just slowing down and allowing yourself to connect deeper to your breath is one of the most powerful tools.
Hmm.
um, their intuition, getting them to start practicing that, and really just figuring out their body and where they generally start to store stuff. Um, but families, it's hard because usually it's like I'm working mostly with the moms, and
Yeah.
then, it's I don't have as easy access to the dads, but when I do, I feel like it's a really big uplifting opportunity for them to heal together and be on that same journey. Because no, we don't want anyone left behind.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like that's one of the better ways that I try to help families start to learn to like be a little bit more empowered and move away from like that sick model, rather more of like the love, trust, surrender, life's happening for us, not to us, and just seeing it in a different lens.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Does this work ever get old for you?
No.
I feel like that's such a rhetorical question, but it's so cool to see you like light up when you talk about this. You can tell. I can just, when I met you, obviously, I was like, this girl just loves what she does. So purpose driven,
Yeah.
so rooted and grounded in supporting and unfolding of healing. And I think that's just so cool to see and watch and witness.
Yeah,
So thank you.
of course, thank you.
Yeah.
I've seen and I've felt what it felt like to not have that, to live in that fear-based mindset of not being able to see hope for the next day, or that there wasn't going to be brighter days. And I've felt that deeply in my soul. I mean, most of my childhood and into my early 20s, it was that, just
Yeah.
this life of fear and no trust that it was going to work out. And so then moving into these deeper layers of healing and of being able to heal myself so I can facilitate that for others, like it definitely will never get old because there's always more work to do and there's not enough of us. Like there's no room for competition here for like any other healing practitioners out there. There is so many people out there that need just hope and love and just that light that we have to offer. And really, it's coming through us. And yes, I'm the one doing the work and showing up in this way, but I'm just the hollow vessel,
Yep.
holding space and allowing it to come through me. And it's just a journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think
Yeah.
one thing I run into a lot, is like, ooh, your ego gets in the way. And we're all healing people for each other as long as we let that come through versus, ooh, I'm healing, or like you said earlier, I'm far along in my spiritual journey. I can teach people a thing or two. I think it's constantly coming back to that sense and also that like true embodiment of humility, and being able to know like I'm living my purpose and I can help. That doesn't make me any different or even separate from
Yeah.
someone else. I think that's really easy to think about sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes in those spaces of the breath work, at the Source Chiropractic, when we'll do what's called breaths of awakening. And it's a holotropic breathing experience. It's literally life-changing. And we'll get 20 to 30 people together to just tap back into their breath. But in the introduction of it, we always make sure to say that some people are here to heal. Some people are here to be a trigger for other people's healing, and some people are here to hold space. And so, whatever way that you're supposed to show up, we're
Oh,
all creating this experience together for us all to heal in a very specific way. And so, whether it is that you're triggered from someone else's release or triggered from awkward noises of people breathing and releasing, like it's all for a very specific reason to dive deeper into yourself and figure out what you have left to heal. And yeah, it just doesn't get old.
yeah. Well, and I think to your point, while we know there's no end to the healing, that can feel really daunting for people. And also liberating for others. My breathwork teacher, he always says, like, if someone came here to, you know, drink beer and watch football every day, that's a good life for them and like where they're at. That doesn't mean that that needs to be your life, and it doesn't mean that either one is better than the other. But for some, that might trigger you, or that might bring up emotions of like, oh, like wasted time or energy or guilt or shame or any of those things that you've listed, it's so fascinating, because just when I think my mind has a grip on what healing is, what it means, it's like the veil, the next layer is like unwrapped, and I'm like, the more I know, the less I know,
Well,
as
and
they
then to
say.
start to be grateful for that,
Exactly.
grateful for those hard times where you're like, what is the point of this? Why is all this happening to me? Why am I experiencing all this pain in my body? Why does nothing seem to be going my way? And it's like, that's all, it's that compressive phase. So there's
Yeah.
compressive phases and there's expansive phases, and it's all for a very specific reason to continue that evolutional journey. But to be grateful for it all is really where the magic starts to happen. And
Yes.
it is hard.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard. Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
we want to understand everything. I'll speak for
Hmm.
myself. I want to understand everything. I
Agreed.
want to know
Me
why. I
too.
want to know why now. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think too, that's learned. Like, we have to
Hmm.
rationalize rather than feel. Going back to that,
Hmm.
like, very masculine versus feminine energy. We can have both.
Hmm.
And yeah,
And we're
it's
supposed
really
to.
exactly, yeah. It's
Hmm.
very, your spiritual journey can be hard, but it also can be really fun if you let it be. To your point, like finding that gratitude in every single moment, I
Hmm.
think really grounds into I get to wake up and learn something new today. Like, what a shift in mindset and perspective.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it. So
Beautiful.
amazing. Hmm.
Cool. To wrap up our conversation, I have a few fun, quick little rapid fire questions that I like
Okay.
to ask all my guests. And
Okay.
the first is, what is your favorite part about the human experience?
There's so much, like we just talked about, so much to be grateful for, and it's really hard to pick a favorite part, but I think just freedom of choice too, like knowing that we're divinely guided, but we always have a choice to move different, to see different, to feel a little bit different. And my boyfriend and I were having this conversation a few nights back of just how many opportunities we have in a day to change or to choose something
Oh,
different is unbelievable. And we were actually like diving into like how small could something be that it actually impacts like the next moment of the day. And we were like, is it blinking? Like, is that small enough? And we're like, no, that wouldn't count
oh,
because
I
that's like
love
a
that.
physiological need, you know? And we're like, a bird sitting on a tree, like how small could something be to not impact the world around us? But that's the beauty of the world, is that every single thing that's happening all across the world is impacting how the next moment is going to happen. And so I think that's my favorite part.
That's so cool. The butterfly
Yeah.
effect, if you will.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Why do you think spiritual connection is important?
I think spiritual connection is important because we're just so much more than our physical bodies. And I think people get really wrapped up in the physical. And it just reminds us that we're all a part of something greater than ourselves. And really, at the end of the day, everything is just energy. Like we are just matter and atoms vibrating at certain frequencies. And it's just everyday moments that really can turn into like medicine and healing and lessons. And it's just that divine guidance that really allows you to flow instead of having to think about the next steps. You can kind of come out of that mind, that anxiety, that fight or flight phase, and just trust in something higher than yourself. And that at the end of the day, it's just God's plan.
Gorgeous. What are some resources, books, podcasts, people that you would
Hmm.
recommend based on what we discussed today? So, whether it's a new mama and about to be mama, someone who's like, oh my God, I want to come see Dr. Mariah.
Yes. So I would love to see anyone and everyone interested in coming to experience the source and what we have to offer. One thing you already mentioned, The Body Keeps the Score, is amazing, amazing book to start to learn how the body holds information. Another one that I really like enjoyed at a certain point in my journey was called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book. It's
No.
Christian
Oh,
led,
you
I
know
guess you
what?
could
I
say.
have heard of this book. I have a
Yeah,
friend that works at the gym who she was like, I'm reading this and it's changing my life, because it's like
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's no, exactly. It's
Yeah.
just like all about how we're just rushing, rushing, rushing to the next greatest thing. And it kind of reminds you how important it is to slow down, be present, dive into those deeper layers of yourself. So those are two really good resources. I loved reading the book Portal for anyone that's
Mm,
currently intrigued in becoming a mother soon or about to embark on their motherhood journey. Just inspiring you again, like what your body's capable of, and kind of sharing some of those stories about, the beauty of birth instead of the fear and the scarcity mindset. So, those are some really good book options. Dr. Brett Jones on social media, he's absolutely amazing, along with his wife, Dr. Kate. Both extremely inspiring, huge mentors in my healing journey, and just continue to teach me more and more every day about this experience that we're currently living. Um, but I feel like those are the top top ones that I would mention right now.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing
Yes.
them. And last but not least, where can our listeners find you? Online, in person?
So in person, you can come see me at the Source Chiropractic. So the Source Chiro Tucson. On Instagram. I'm Dr. Mariah Rohm on Instagram. And then I am currently working on starting a lactation support and postpartum group. So that will be in person probably bi-monthly, I'm thinking, because
Cool.
moms are busy and I want to make it doable for them. But I'm looking forward to just holding more space for women in that way, for women to connect and inspire each other and just hold space for one another. So
Mm.
that's really exciting. And then I'm also just currently working, I haven't shared this with anyone, but I'm writing a children's book, which I'm really excited about. Just to, those bedtime stories are important, and I feel like there's so many beautiful lessons that kids need to learn about what their body has to offer them. And so that's a little secret of
Ooh,
what's to
cool.
come. So, yeah,
Awesome. Well, when that comes out, you'll have to let us know. We'll share it
I
out.
will. Yes, I'd love to.
Aw. Thank you, Mariah, for being on the show today. You are just such a beautiful soul, such an inspiration. I'm so grateful that the universe brought us together. Like, how fun, how cool.
Everything happens for a reason. I'm
Amen, girly.
so, so grateful to be here, and just even that reassurance for me that like we're all on the right path in the
Mm-hmm.
right timing and meeting the right people that we need to connect with to just continue to inspire us. And it's really inspiring to me to just know that there's other people out there that have those same hopes and dreams of like what the world could look like with people that are more connected, more spiritually in tune. And I'm just also just as much inspired by you. So keep
Oh,
up the good work, girl.
thanks, sister. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.